For my personal management or discipline plan, I feel like the most important thing is that it is a plan. It is one of the most important things to do as an educator. I remember that I've gotten so much advice from other educators and other teachers that the most important thing going into my classroom this year would be classroom management and figuring out what works for me. And if you can't do that, then effective learning really can't take place. It should be a foundation of your classroom each year, and you must plan for that according to your beliefs and what you feel works for you and what will work for your students as well. I think the first question that you want to look at whenever you're planning is what behavior is expected. What values should your students exemplify? What do you want the class to look like? These questions really help you set these rules that you want, and these rules become the foundation and the formation of your classroom. They set the tone, they set the climate, they really show your students that you want this classroom to be respectful, you want it to be a safe learning environment, and what they can and cannot do in the classroom. So personally, I think that students should have a hand in their learning and that they should be able to explore that learning in this environment that is set up by these rules, but I do think that the teacher should be the one setting the rules. As Morris states, he believes that teachers are responsible for the students' instruction and allowing them to learn and to cooperate and to behave responsibly and show consideration for others. But we have to build this space for those students. We have to be in charge of that. That's our jobs. So I think that his approach of real discipline is something that I really plan to implement in my classroom. And this can be how to follow procedures and routines, transitions from one task to the next, how to pass out assignments. We must facilitate this process. It cannot be done with, this is what you're supposed to do. You have to provide this foundation and structure for them to follow and behave in a certain way, which I feel that doing the I do, we do, you do method is very helpful for this, and that's something that I plan to do. Because, for example, if you want a student to not speak whenever another student is speaking or not speak whenever anyone else is speaking, you have to exemplify that yourself and pay attention and show that you can listen whenever someone else is talking. And then as they begin to act the same way, you enforce that positively and say, yes, thank you for listening to me and listening to me as I was speaking to you. This is how we do it. This is great. This is how I want the classroom to be. You're really being a role model for them and reinforcing that positive behavior. And then they begin to do it themselves. And you still reinforce that positive behavior because they did it without you asking. But you also do have to correct those misbehaviors as they are doing the opposite of what you would like them to do, which is a big plan of mine. And I also really want things to be clear and just visual all the time. Any directions, any rules, any procedures, I feel like they need to be posted because students need to feel like they can focus on other things. If they know that they have something else in the classroom to refer to as far as classroom behavior, then they can really focus on their learning. They know that they can look back on that poster and say, okay, this is what we're doing next, but right now I can focus on this. Or they can look at the poster that says, okay, what do we do when we line up? Okay, I can do this, I can do the correct behavior, and I won't see any negative consequences from that. I feel like doing that and having these rules posted and having them understand them is very important, and for that reason, I want to have a contract for my students and my parents to sign at open house night so that they all feel comfortable with the way that my classroom is going to be ran, because if my classroom is different than what's at home, there's going to be some disconnect with the student whenever they come into the classroom. So I really want parents to understand that I am doing this for their quality of learning. So having that done before instruction starts is very important to me. And I draw on a lot of different authorities, not just Moorish. So I feel like Skinner's positive reinforcement is something that I plan to do with the I do, we do, you do model, and Riddle and Wattenberg's group dynamics. I would love to implement that with group learning so that there's a mixture in the students. I want them to bounce off of each other, and that's really where they can kind of take control of their learning and work with others as well. I intend to use Gordon's empathetic understanding because every student is different, and every student's developmental stages will be different as far as like Piaget goes. Even though they're all in second grade or they're all at one age level, that doesn't mean that developmentally or academically they're at the same level. But that means that mixing these students in these groups, everyone's best will be different, and we have to mix them together to make them better. So that way someone can be an individual and maybe perform a little less and someone else is performing higher, and they can help each other. And at the bottom line of all of this, I need to have that relationship with my students so that they trust me and feel comfortable with me as their teacher. I need to be consistent, and I need to show them that I'm there for them. And at the end of the day, I want to constantly reflect on all of these things because I might change. Something that I believe is very strong right now, once I get into the classroom, it might not work that way. But I really want to grow and evolve and really learn from my students as well. And I really want them to always have the question, if I want to be successful in this class right now, what should I be doing? Because there's not one cookie cutter version of success. But at the end of the day, the answer to that question will be apparent because of what I've set forth in my classroom. So planning for this allows those students the opportunity to be able to answer that question themselves with what I've already given them. So that is my plan for my personal management and discipline in my classroom for this year.